Let me get a sip of my water.
Okay. You know, me too. Let me get some coffee. Shameless pun. Shameless advertising.
I love it. Listen, I usually have mine. I have this one here.
Yeah,
I have yours
I know.
because I love my mugs.
I bet. Oh.
Hi everyone. We have author Jodaea here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself.
All right. My full name is Jodaea Dion Minor White. I go by the name Jodaea, one namer. I am a registered nurse by trade, and I write, I call it cautionary tales, factual fiction. Um, both of my stories right now, we have Sunday Christians and we have Careful What You Pray For. They have a fictional cautionary tale with a factual background.
Okay.
So it's more of Sunday Christians is about a young man that's financially well off and that he is finally looking for love. He's looking for what his parents have. Typically, they have that loving teamwork relationship that's lasted throughout the years, through the ups and downs, and that's the family that he grew up in. So, typically, as fact, we tend to stick to what's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what he's wanting, but he's rushing it a little. He thinks he's got love at first sight, but this young lady who is starting her life over and building herself up, she has a past that's starting to catch up with her. They meet at the fictional Greater Horizons Baptist Church in Landover, Maryland, and things just take off from there.
Okay.
But the base of the book is I wanted to do something different because there are tens of thousands of books out there about how women, the man did this, he did that, he ain't nothing, he ain't gonna be nothing, and still I rise. But there aren't many books out here that, praise our brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I could be a little biased because I grew up with five brothers and 10 uncles. So I've seen the ups and downs that men go through. I've seen the evil that women can do. Um, and one thing I do know is no matter what a man turns out to be, no man wakes up and is like, I'm just going to be this mean evildoer that's just going to run over women. So what this is here's a young man fault free that's doing the right thing and how a situation can go either way.
Okay.
So with that one, and it's a whole bunch of stories within stories, talking about the Black church, letting us see the inside of the Black church from the congregational side, not just from the first family side. You have your green leaves and you have um, saints and sinners, and all of those show it from the first family, from the pulpit out.
Mm-hmm.
The first family, the first lady, what they're doing. But what about the congregation? So just focuses on the reverse. And just like me, I'm always doing something different. I want to do something different with all of my books because the main thing when it comes to writing a book is what are you saying that hasn't been said? What makes your books different? So when you read Sunday Christians, it's like, oh, okay. And it's a trip because a lot of the guys love it. It's a real guy friendly book, what I've heard from the men.
Okay.
They're like, finally, we got something that, somebody's speaking for us. I mean,
Yes.
Michael Baisden, if you're familiar with his books, he did write that one, Men Cry in the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end, he ended up cheating on the girl. So I'm like, duh. I'm like, give me something where the man is totally fault free. And that's how
Right.
I made him fault free. You couldn't find anything wrong with him.
Okay.
And I did that on purpose.
Good. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yes, and that's the main thing with all of my writing. I try to do something different. what am I saying that hasn't already been said when you talk as any subject you can throw out there, bank robbery. There's been like 10,000, everybody's robbed a bank a different way,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you can just take about any subject and it's a book about it.
Yeah.
So I just focus on what's different. Same thing with careful what you pray for. A lot of people are like, yeah, wasn't expecting that. Yeah, it's like, I know, I made it that way. So this one it talks about abuse of power and integrity and listening to those around you. Everything that looks good to you isn't good for you. And that's what I put careful what you pray for. And I put the pray, PREY, because that's what our main character does. And she gets just, well, really not what she was expecting. And with this one, it also talks about um, mental illness.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's like I said, a lot of my books are stories within stories, but the backstory is really talking about mental illness and what it encompasses. It encompasses drug abuse, it encompasses PTSD, and it just shows you what I wanted to show the reader is how much of a fine line that we walk every day between sanity and insanity. And all it takes is just one situation to nudge us to either side. For instance, with this whole COVID thing, the suicide rate has gone up. I mean, it's gone way up because we don't have that human contact. We
Mm-hmm.
don't realize how much we need each other. Everybody's so busy in this day and time being so angry with each other that we really I just miss congregating, like when you're walking in the mall and you're just seeing other people. Because down here, I don't know if you guys know, but Maryland and Virginia, we're going back on lockdown.
Yeah, same here.
Maryland started yesterday, we start on Monday. So it's like, I can attest to that being in the house. I can't go to the store. I go outside just to get that air on me. But if you're not right here or you already have issues, it will really, it's really starting to shine a light on mental illness. And that's what Careful What You Pray For really tries to focus on, the PTSD of
Okay.
how, especially in our culture, we're just starting to focus on mental illness. It was always whatever happened in your house, you don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you gonna pray about it and God's gonna work it out. But what happens when the source of your mental illness is in the church, or is in that mentor, or is in that teacher, or that your parent?
Mm-hmm.
How do you talk about it? So it's those things where we just pack it down, keep growing up with it, packing it down, keep growing up with it, more stuff happening, packing it down. And then that situation happens to tip you over the edge. And then there's a problem. So that's really what Careful What You Pray For is about. And I don't just write, I'm a Black author, but I don't just write for a Black audience. My characters are white.
Mm-hmm.
They are African, they're German. I give us a diverse background because I don't want to be like, oh, she's just writing, because I've had my white readers, they're like, well, I like to see you like this, because a lot of people think that we're oversexed hood rats that all we get our money and we spend it on big cars, big systems, material things, and all we're just money mongers and sex mongers, and that's not really who we are.
Right.
My characters are professionals. They're well spoken. They're well to do. We still have that twinge, just still that twinge of who we are, because I don't put a lot of cursing in it,
Right.
because I actually had my editor say, that's kind of a turn off. She said, if you can write your book and take out the cuss words and get the point across, then you have a good story. So I had to go back. Like Sunday Christians was rewritten about 3 times.
Okay.
because I was like, oh, really? And it's like I didn't realize it, how things, reflect and how your readers perceive, because there's a situation in Sunday Christians that's still a debate to this day. Was this situation on purpose, or was it an accident? Half my readers say, well, it was an accident. Half of the readers say, no, it was on purpose. But the way I wrote it was one way, and how she was like, see, that's a prime example of what you write is not what they're going to pick up, because your characters take on a life of their own. So I try to make them put us in the best light possible. That we're not, that all women are not neck rolling, gum popping. That we have brains. We're very professional, but we have our issues as well, and they're not rooted in drugs,
Right.
sex. They're not rooted in, wanting to be, you know what I'm saying? Just how nothing. Let me tell you. Let me put my disclaimer out. I'm not bashing the street lit community, because that's a whole thing. You do your thing. That's what you want. I just want to be different,
Mm-hmm.
because what I'm noticing is non-black readers group us, and they assume that that's all we write,
Right.
unless we're talking about, a slave documentary or the civil rights movement, or, those type of things, or a self-help book. I want to put us in the best light possible. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
hmm
Now, what was your first novel that you published?
It was Sunday Christians, believe
Sunday
it or
Christmas.
not.
Okay.
I was kind of going through a depression. So they said, great things are created out of desperation. And so my husband he just was like, all of those stories you tell me about growing up, why don't you ever thought about writing a book? And I said, no, because I was going through my thing. And he was like, well, why don't you just start writing about it? And, maybe that'll, at least get you out of bed. I was like, oh, okay. So then I started writing, and then I was like, hmm, okay. And then he's going to do this. So then I started getting into it,
Okay.
and I found that I liked it. And then before I finished this, I'd come up with the idea for Careful What You Pray For. And then it was like, oh, and then I can write about this. So it's actually been cathartic for me to get all of this stuff out, that, crazy situations. And when I say crazy situations I was in coming up, I'm like, okay, really? Like I always tell people, anything that can happen will happen to me. It will be like the oddest thing. And I always get, well, that's never happened. Yeah, that's going to be me. Yep, that's me. Every job I go to, it's always, well, that's never happened. Just, it's going to be me.
Yeah.
hmm hmm So I just took those crazy situations and then added a fictional backstory.
Okay.
And then, of course, sprinkle a little bit of me, and then I got to throw a twist in there every now and then. And so, because I like the wow factor, like when people are reading a book, they're like, "Ooh, what? And my books are quick reads, because we're in a time of I want what I want and I want it now.
Mm-hmm.
So I get like a quick read, because, like, I have a quick chance to sit down in my busy day. Let me just, zone out for a bit. And then I'm going to take you to this place. And then you can come back, because a lot of people, when they read it, they're like, wow, it was really good. I felt like I was at the movies. And
Nice.
I'm like, oh, okay. And like I said, it's a quick read, because I don't like useless trivia or useless or run on narrative. The only person that can do that, to my knowledge, is Stephen King, and bring it back together. But I like, let's get to the point, let's knock it out, and the buildup is good, and there it is. Like, don't give me 3 pages describing how the chair in the corner, how it was so magnificent and it reminded you of, yet no, let's just stick to the facts.
Yes.
Because sometimes I even ramble in my writing. I'm like, right, cut that out. I don't need that. Get to the point because my husband will be like, okay, you're rambling. Because I always run things by him. I like to read it out loud, and that is a big thing. Reading your work out loud. It'll really change the perspective. I've had to go back and change things. I'm like, oh, that sounds stupid. But in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is fire. That's the best thing Microsoft could have come up with is the read back, the read back thing. Because I'm like, oh, I said that. Ooh. Because in our minds, we get so caught up and we're typing and we're typing. And sometimes our mind is going faster than our fingers. And we're trying to get that point out before we lose it. We're trying to get that scene out before we lose it. So sometimes it doesn't quite pan out on paper. And that also helps a lot. I'm a big stickler for continuity, plausibility, and believability. If you saw my pub tip that I published the other day, that makes a big deal. I read the reviews on Amazon. They're horrible. Those people are, but I'm like, I try not to make that mistake. Like when I read the reviews from other people's books, and they're like, oh, a lot of people don't like the series. I think there's a lot of series books ebooks out there where I'm looking at the page count, it may be 100 pages, and then it's, people trying to make money. And it's like, what I'm seeing is a lot of angry readers like, I read the series, this could have all been one book. I think that's the thing. I don't like it. I want to give you that bang. I want to jump in, hit you where it is, give you something to think about, a good discussion book. That's what I want. I add in vocabulary to, not to say that I'm a wordsmith, but, just to enhance our vocabulary, just different things like that. We're not, every other word shouldn't be an F-bomb or, even when you're describing, the funeral scene, it doesn't have to be these effing people aren't my effing friends. Really? Those are all the things that I try to do.
How did you come up with the covers of your books?
How do I come up with the covers? Um, well, I've looked at what is it, the pre-designed book covers. Um, and I look to see, can this cover enhance the point that I'm trying to make? You see what I'm saying? With Sunday Christians, well, I liked it because she kind of looks like the character, honestly.
Okay.
But I see how like the shrouds are like the covers that people put on when they come to church. And it's like she's the one that's exposed. Like, when you have a newcomer to church, they're bearing all. They don't, when they finally say, I'm going to give my life to God, I'm going to go in there and I'm exposing myself, I'm being all of who I can be. And then you get into the church and you realize that some people are just, it's a cover, those Sunday Christians. And it's so funny because I heard the term as a kid. My grandfather used to watch me after school at his barbershop. So I got to see men's point of views. It's like sort of like being raised by men, sort of like the reverse when guys talk about like Tyler Perry. I used to go to the beauty shop all the time with my mom, and then mine was the reverse. My grandfather used to babysit me, so I saw all kinds of men. I saw pimps, I saw pastors, I saw, the shirt and tie guys, I saw the street guys. And I remember there was a conversation they were talking about, and the guy said, oh, you must be one of those Sunday Christians. Yeah, and that's how I heard the term, and I kind of was like, what does that mean? As a kid, I'm like,
right,
what does that mean? And then the guy was like, yeah, you want them to go to church on Sunday, you want to be saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, but good and well during the week, you just doing all of this, that, and all of that. And I was like, oh, okay. Sunday Christian. So when I was thinking up a name, I'm like, what's Sunday Christians?
Nice.
And then when I saw the cover, I also do like a blind test. Like, what do you see when you look at this picture? Like when we chose Sunday Christians, I asked people like, what do you see? And they were like, exposed is the main thing. Like she's exposed. And I was like, oh, okay. But with careful what you pray for was, I couldn't find anything to really enhance that. Like, I like the fire thing, but then they have, I like the handcuffs up here and the detectives. So it's like, yeah, let me try to blend them both. And then with careful what you pray for, I'm like, it was already a book saying, it was already a book out that said, I think it was, be careful what you wish for.
Okay.
Or something like this. But of course, me trying to be so different, I put the pray, like, okay, because you're praying on somebody. So I'm like, okay, so we're doing that. You're praying on somebody, but you're playing with fire.
Right. That's what I got from it when I saw
exactly.
it. Fire. Yep.
It worked.
Yep.
So and that's because at first it was just going to be the flame by itself.
Okay.
But then I figured, well, let me see if I have anything like this. And sometimes it's, you don't want to put too much on it, but you want to be enough to be eye catching, so that's kind of where those came from. Like right now, working on my new project, it's a toss up right now between 3 or 4. And sometimes what I'll do is I do in my free time, whatever free time I do have, I love photography. I love to do that. So I take my own pictures, and now that I know how to do the graphic side of it, as far as working with the computer, transposing, doing layouts, I'll try to look for one that's pre-made. I don't mind investing in people because people do this for a living. That's one less thing I got to think about. But I also have to think about, does it capture what I'm trying to put off?
And where can we purchase your books?
Okay. Most of them you can purchase them on my website, novelsbyjodaea.com. I also have my book boxes there. I have merchandise as well. And you click on it and you click on NBJ Bookstore and it'll take you right there. You can also get it at Riches and Reading. They're an online bookstore. Urban Reads Bookstore, you can get it from them online or at their store in Baltimore, Maryland, Greenmount. And then it's also on the I'm Book Boxed mobile book boutique. Yes, you can get it from there. And you can also order online from these shops as well. Careful What You Pray For is an ebook, and it is on Amazon.com. I took Sunday Christians down. I didn't like the formatting of it, but I do plan on putting that back up. And right now, I am also working on audio versions of both titles. I'm trying to decide, because a lot of people say you have a nice voice. Why don't you read your own book instead of paying somebody to read for you? Because that's, we're finding that's voiceovers are a real lucrative business, but it costs.
Yeah,
it costs a lot. And so I'm getting into that, but then again, trying to juggle that with writing this new book, with marketing, with COVID, so it's like I can't quit my day job yet. Hopefully I'm getting there, but COVID is really pushing things back, because I was hoping to have this new project ready for the Christmas season for rollout, but I'm thinking it's going to be pushed back.
Okay.
Yeah, so I might just do pre-orders. Mm-hmm.
Keep us posted. And I know one thing, as readers, we do love, and it doesn't happen that often, where the author actually read their book.
Mm-hmm.
It for the audio version.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they always find like a famous person. I'm like, I don't have Morgan Freeman money. So I don't have Morgan Freeman money. So
Now, out of both of your books, who's your favorite character?
Believe it or not, my favorite character is Careful What You Pray For, Jax. And a lot of people say, why him? Because I had the funnest time working with him.
Okay.
And his character, and they're like, but he's the racist white guy. I'm like, but it is so I had so much fun with him, making him true, not exaggerating, but just making that from my neighbors. He's a combination of a couple of my neighbors mixed together. Like he doesn't really care for Black people, but he'll help you to a point.
Okay.
Like, if I see you getting beat up in the alley, I'm not gonna break it up, but I'll call the cops and keep on walking. But it's like one of those funny like one of those guys that'll talk smack from his porch, but like if they were getting together to kill a Black person, he'd be like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay here. I'm not gonna participate. I'm just gonna talk smack from my porch.
Right.
Type racist guy. So it was kind of funny. It's like with him, I actually I laughed out loud with him. I had the funnest time writing him, because I see it all the time down here in Virginia. It's just like that. I call it the porch racist. Like I said, I'm gonna talk smack from afar, but I'm not gonna be going to a march. You're not gonna catch me at Charlottesville.
Right.
I'm just gonna talk smack from afar and sit on my porch and drink my tea.
And where can we find you on social media?
Oh my goodness. You can find me again at novelsbyjodaea.com. I am on Instagram at Jodaea Novels, all one word. And I'm on Facebook, but I'm kind of shying away from Facebook. If you're going to find me on Facebook, you'll find me under Jodaea White. That's my personal one.
And is there anything else that you would like to tell us about your books?
Again, like I said, I don't just write for Black readers. I really love a diverse audience. Again, they're quick reads. We don't use a lot of useless narratives. I want people to get the point that I'm trying to put out. When I say cautionary tales, look, read this book and understand, don't do it this way, because this can be the outcome. Don't do what you want to do, because this is the outcome. Sometimes listen to the people around you. And like I said, my main thing with writing my books is putting us to disrupt the assumptions of who we are. We have real problems. We are financially well off. We are well spoken. We are well educated. We are diverse. You see, and then we're not all bougie. You get some of those, some of us, they get to middle management and think they made it. You can't tell them nothing. They're a wordsmith, and I'm not doing too much. I'm just letting you know we're just like you. We have the same problems. We do things the same way. We hurt the same. We bleed the same.
Right.
So if I can help somebody.
Thank you for sending us a copy. And
yeah. I love it. I know, right?
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you don't know how much I appreciate it, because I think, to me, every shout out, every retweet, every time somebody says my name, it's a hand up.
Yes.
And I love it.
Yes.
I love it. I have really enjoyed this. I love it.
All right, everyone. That was author Jodaea, who was actually a sponsor for our book club. So again, thank you for joining us. Go out and cop her books. Careful What You Pray For. And Sunday Christians, don't forget to like and subscribe below.